Man, I'm speechless. That's hard for me to do. So, the theme for 2024 is a grand rising. And the theme for March is that's how we've never done it. So, the topic for today is what is contemplation anyway? Let's contemplate. Ernest Holmes offers this perspective on contemplation. Self-contemplation, through law, reflects its images into the world of form. Before I read the next slide, I want to share a 2-second insight that I had when I was contemplating today's message. What came to me, and I believe this was spirit guided, I cannot know anything if I refuse to open my mind up to it. And then it occurred to me when we talk about opening the mind up, closing the mind down, I started thinking about up and down. So now I'd like to read the last slide. Let's use the creative power of our words and affirm together. I seize this day, embracing its unlimited possibilities. Unlimited. So now I'd like to introduce Charlie Curtis, who is a hypnotherapist, board-certified hypnotherapist. He's trained and teaches neuro-linguistic programming and mindfulness. And I want to welcome him to join us and share amazing wisdom. Do you want that? No. Okay.
So, what is contemplation anyway? Contemplation is whatever we're focused on. And people focus on a lot of things right now. There are people in several parts of the world who are focusing on somebody else at the other end of their gun and they're about to shoot them dead. You know, there are people about to commit crimes. There are people who are sick and dying. There are people out there contemplating COVID. You can contemplate all kinds of things. And some of these things are useful and some of them are not. So today we're going to talk about the useful ones. And everybody has a handout? Well, you're about to get a handout. So I believe in handouts. If you come to one of my classes, you will always get a handout. That's guaranteed. In fact, we had we have a class that we do that runs for a year, and somebody said, "You're bringing so many handouts." They got one of these things that you take to the airport for your luggage, and they put a milk carton on it. And they came to the class with it and said, "Now I have room for all your handouts." So the one sentence out of the Science of Mind textbook that's one of the most important ones is this simply says, there is one life. If you know that statement and you know what it means, you can heal anything, you can achieve anything, you can have any kind of state of mind you want, you can have peace of mind, you can have joy of living, and you can be the best practitioner in the whole world. One of my mentors is Joel Goldsmith, and he gave a whole class one night just on the idea that the only two words you need to know are God is, because God is all there is, and if God is all there is, then everything that is God, and what else do you need to know? other than that. So that's metaphysical truth. That's always been truth. Ernest Holmes and these other guys didn't make it up, but they learned how to use it. And part of what we do in Centers for Spiritual Living is we not only learn this stuff, we use it. Now, talking about things that we've never done before, there are some scientific truths that are emerging, and Ernest Holmes didn't know about them because nobody knew about them, but they were true back then. Actually, when I was in the ashram, they knew about some of them. They knew about the Kundalini rising, which is what we were doing in meditation this morning. They knew about the pineal gland and that was the connection to the rest of the world. It's funny that Western science thinks the pineal gland is a vestigial organ, and it's actually the third eye that connects you to God. So isn't that interesting? So some scientific truths that Ernest Holmes would have loved. He was always talking to people and reading magazines, and in the earlier version of his textbook, he quoted from a number of magazines in it because he loved to do that. So I'm sure he would have been interested in this stuff. The first thing I want to do is talk about the prefrontal cortex. I know you all were talking about it at breakfast this morning. It's common knowledge, but it's this guy right. It's this guy right here. It's where the third eye is in yoga, and that's the thing that decides what you're going to pay attention to. And it has all kinds of blood vessels that it controls. And if you get upset, it shuts down. And when it shuts down, it takes the whole top part of your brain offline. And the top part of your brain is your smart part. That's why and that's the part that knows how to think. And that's why when you get upset, you do dumb things, because the first thing that happens is these blood vessels shut off, top part of your brain shuts off, and now you're a teenager. Because we have three parts to the brain. We have the instinctive part, which is the bottom part. That's the part that beats your heart and breathes your lungs and does all the things that keep us alive. And then we have the middle part, which from an evolutionary point of view is everybody from lizards on up has one. And, there are some people in this world who are lizards, and, that's their mentality. And there are those of us who have risen above that, and like people in this room. So this part of it is your emotional brain. There's nothing wrong with it. It's there to keep you alive. If you're ever in an absolute emergency, it will give you extra strength to help you get through that and live one more day. So there's nothing wrong with that. But if you live there, you're only living with half your brain. And I used to take a whole lot of self-development courses, and they all said, you're using 20% of your brain. And I thought, what does that mean? What does that mean? Well, that's what it means. It means you're using this part, which is your emotions only, and then the top part, which is where you do all your smart thinking, that literally goes offline. And so in part of my training, they showed a video of blood vessels closing down, closing down, closing down. You have an argument with somebody and you can lose 60 to 80% of the top of your brain in about 4 seconds. So that's not useful. And if they do it at the same time, which often happens, now the two of you are having an argument, and that's really not useful. And what usually happens a couple days after that is you begin to feel like you're catching a cold or something, because when that happens, it turns your immune system off, because you don't need that if you're about to be eaten by a tiger. So your limbic system shuts all of that off. So now your immune system is down, and now you can catch all kinds of things. So that part of your brain will help you survive, but it's not as helpful as it could be. Because if it shuts off everything unnecessary, including your thinking part, because it thinks if you're about to die, you don't need to think. You just need to run. So that's what that part does for you. So there is one life. That's the mystical consciousness. There's not one person in a million who's heard of it, and who's heard of it knows what it means, because it means that we are that perfect life. So the prefrontal cortex, you can decide to bring your brain back online. And you can do, for example, a lot of you guys are into yoga, and yoga is a system where we consciously choose to bring all of our cells back online, our physical body, our brain, our breath, everything. And so when you do certain exercises, like we were being led through this morning up in the meditation, helps bring all of your brain back online. That's what we really need to do. If you ever been upset about something and then a little bit later said, what was I thinking? Well, you weren't. You weren't thinking. And that's why, and what happens is, as you come out of your stupidity, solutions emerge from the fog, and you say, oh yeah, I could have done that, and oh, that wasn't true. Why did I say that? That wasn't true at all. So the truth emerges from the fog when you meditate. So we're talking about thinking with all of your brain. So one of the messages of today is you want to open up the prefrontal cortex. There are now things you can do specifically to do that. I have a wearable called the Mendy, which is actually used for kids with ADD. You put it on, and you play this little video game on your phone, and it helps open up your prefrontal cortex. Because the only thing wrong with people with ADD is they're all over the place because nobody told them not to do that. So they're not really sick. They don't have a disease. In fact, nobody has a disease. The message of Centers for Spiritual Living is that there is no such thing as disease. You know, there's the experience of disease, the belief in it, the thought of it, going to your doctor and being told you have it, but it doesn't really exist. And so when you get a spiritual mind treatment, what you are reminded of is that does not exist. It's not real. It has no power, cannot hurt or harm you in any way. And the other thing that happens is we get to connect to non-local mind. Jung said we have a collective unconscious, and that's what he was talking about. And there's a heavy part of non-local mind, and that's what Holmes called race belief. That's the part that drags you down into the muck. You know, you're looking down instead of looking up. And when you look down, you see all the things that are wrong. So you don't want that part. You want to look up. You know, I lift up mine eyes unto the hills from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord who made heaven and earth. So when we lift our eyes up, we connect with the Lord, which means law in science of mind. And so you connect to non-local mind, and that's the whole message from beginning to end. Non-local mind, the high part of it, that's the spiritual part of you, that's God. So when you feel uplifted, that's what happened. Your pineal gland just did its little thing in the back of your lower brain, opens up, connects you to the rest of the universe. And when I was in the ashram, they said when that happens, you feel bliss. If you want to feel blissful, you need to meditate. So I'm going to talk a few minutes about meditation today. So you connect to non-local mind, and it helps you meditate, and it makes you feel blissful. There literally are 7 chemicals in your blood, which when secreted in the proper ratio make you high on life, and we were designed to live that way. And when you do that, your diseases go away, your bad mood goes away, your crankiness goes away, and people are once again ready to enjoy your presence. So another way of looking at that is you just switched your brain waves. And so we have brain waves beta, which is what we're in right now because we're talking. And then we have high beta, which is where people go when they worry, and hopefully nobody's in high beta right now because high beta sucks. When you experience high beta, you feel terrible. You feel like, biting somebody's head off. You feel like going to war with the country next to you. And you always feel like you're dying. Even if you're just the tiniest little bit on edge, you feel like you're dying, and you are, because you're dying faster than you're living. And if you live that way for a long period of time, it literally takes 10 years off your lifespan. That's the projection. So that's not what we want to do. So if you look at the section where it says choices, we have the choice to do something else other than that. We can go into the alpha, theta, delta, which is listed above. The alpha, which is creativity. The theta, which is where perfect health turns up. Your delta, which is where you feel connected to God. And then gamma is when you go completely into the zone. Your kundalini rises, feels like the top of your head blows off, and you feel absolute, complete, and total joy. So that's a choice, and we're here today to help make that choice. So it says LOA, that's law of attraction. And law of attraction is absolutely true. It means whatever you focus on, you get more of. So what you want to do is focus on what you want more of. And how many people spend all their time just focusing on what's wrong? Most people. Most people spend most of their time focusing on what's wrong. And so they get more of it. And so they get together in large groups and say, yeah, life is really bad. But they made that happen. And they forget. A metaphor I like to use is, there's the people on the left side of the street, and those are the people who are left behind when we go to heaven, because heaven is a state of mind. And those people on the left, it rains all the time. And it's windy. and life feels bad when you're there, and everybody agrees it's terrible. And those are the people who are sick. They're all over there. And so, some of them aren't there because they're in the doctor's office getting some kind of bad news or other. But if they're up and around, they're walking down that side of the street, and they're not having a good time. And on the other side of the street, which is the right side of the street, on the right side of the street, all those people are happy, and the sun is out all the time, and it's always a wonderful day over there, and they have their arms around each other, they love each other, and they couldn't hurt each other, they couldn't hurt a fly, they couldn't hurt any sort of animal. And so these are the people that are really enjoying life. These are the people who are in touch with God. Because the thing that happens when you connect to non-local mind, you get that uplift. That uplift means you just connected to the Holy Spirit. And when you get that uplift, that's when your body starts to heal. That's when your circumstances rearrange themselves. That's when the things the practitioner said about you start to become true. So I want to give you a couple of ideas today for how to do that all by yourself, because it's nice to have ideas you can take home. So instead of, if you find yourself focusing on what's wrong, just shift gears a little bit and say, I'm going to focus on what's right. And some people will say, well, how can I when there are so many things that are bad? And I would say, why would you ever want to make the choice of focusing on what's bad if you could focus on what's good? Because when you focus on what's good, it starts turning up, and isn't that what you want? So you have to decide to focus on the positive aspects of everything. And so you have positive aspects and negative aspects, or at least the appearance of positive and negative all the time. That's focusing on the tree of knowledge of good and evil in the second chapter of Genesis is all about. When you focus on the negative aspects, then it throws you out of heaven, and that's what that second chapter is all about. And in fact, one of the things it said was men will suffer making a living, and women will suffer bringing forth children into this world. And what's interesting is when we teach people to go back to heaven, women don't give birth in pain anymore. I help people with hypnobirthing. There's autogenics in Europe. It's the equivalent of hypnosis in this country. They use it for pain-free birthing. And what we have found out through research is women are actually wired to have an extended orgasm during the birth process. I didn't even know that. And I have a book that was written by an OBGYN where he started giving case histories of women who had actually had that happen. And it turns out we're wired for that. Well, why don't we have it if we can? And the answer is we're programmed not to. We pass around the belief starting from day one that, giving birth is a terrible thing. It's going to be painful. It's one of the nastier things, and et cetera, et cetera. So, what you believe is what you get. It is done into you as you believe. That has never stopped being true. So you got to make sure that what you believe is on target, and that's what things like this class that's being offered in the Fundamentals of Science of Mind, that's what that will do for you. So a homegrown way of doing that is to enjoy what you have. Just figure out a way to enjoy it. And instead of saying, well, I could have had this and I could have had that, and, you could just say, well, look at what I have. I have this, and this was great, and I have this, and this is great. And be eager for more. Enjoy what you have and be eager for more. So if you find yourself being dissatisfied, change that around. Enjoy what you have and eager for more. And these are good things to do if you have a spare piece of paper and something to write with. It'll put you in a good mood. So I want to take a few minutes and talk about specific spiritual practices. First of all, focus not on what's wrong, not on the bad news, not on the political person you don't like. Focus on the next intention for your period of time. Figure out what you're not going to do in your period of time, and then daydream about it coming about well. Daydream is a form of meditation. We have daydreams, which are dreaming while you're in alpha waves, and then you have night dreams, which is when you're in theta waves. So daydream while you're still awake about the next period of time coming out well. Number one, you'll feel better. Number two, it will tend to come out well. And number three, by doing that, you improve your health. And most people I know would like to improve their health. So those two practices will help. You'll be focused all day, every day on what's going to happen next and thinking about it coming out well. And it will change. If you do that for a couple of weeks, you'll notice an upward trend in your life experience and in your expectation. And after a while, it just is something that you do. And when you do, it happens automatically, and it's very good. So the next thing is journals and journal and journal. To me, journaling is my life. Sandy will tell you, I journal all the time. Where we live is littered with my old journals because they're so wonderful. I have to go back and read them again and see the good things that are in them. And this is the one place where you do want to express the negative because you want to get it out of you. And this is not the same as focusing on something negative and making it get bigger. That's when you talk about politics, when you focus on the negative and it gets bigger. What you want to do is focus on the negative with the intention of letting go of it forever. If you focus, because what you want to do is you're not looking for bad stuff, but you're starting where you are. And what if you're in a crappy mood? The best thing you can do is grab a piece of paper and write down, I'm in a crappy mood. You just took it out of your head and put it on a piece of paper, and it's no longer living rent-free in your mind. And then you just do that, and you'll find, you might list 5 of those things, and all of a sudden you'll have a polarity shift, you'll be in a positive place, and from then on out, you're going to be blissful. But you wouldn't have gotten in the blissful place if you hadn't written down the negative thing. I work with people in therapy sessions all the time, and I take them through the journaling process, and you would think I was dragging them through hell to have them tell me their negative thoughts because they're terrified of them, and some of them have even been programmed not to do that. But the problem is they're already doing it, because if it's in your head, it's just going, I feel bad, I feel lousy, the doctor told me I have this, oh my God, I have that, I'm getting worse, I'm supposed to die in 2 weeks, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. It's already there. So what you're doing is you're getting it out, you're kicking it out, you're taking away the keys, and you're saying you can no longer live rent-free in my head. So journaling is good. Journaling will give you a polarity shift. Polarity shift means you switch from negative to positive. And when you get a polarity shift and you were in a negative place, it feels wonderful. It feels delightful. And you realize that wouldn't have happened if you hadn't cleaned house. What would happen if you never cleaned your house? Wouldn't be so nice. Well, if you never clean the stinking thinking out of your mind, where do you think the stinking thinking is? It's still there, and it still stinks, and it still keeps you in a lousy mood. And if you could be blissful instead of stinking thinking, why wouldn't you want to do that? Well, most people don't know they have a choice. They just think this thing called fight or flight, the fight or flight mechanism, is at the root of all of this. It's in all the cultures of the world, they talk about it. They usually call it Satan or something else, or the voice of the tempter. But it really is the fight or flight system, because it flips your perception upside down. It makes everyone, especially your mate and your children, into the enemy. And after it's done that, then all you want to do is pound them into the ground, which is not useful. So that's why we don't want to listen to that bugger. And the best way to get that thing to shut off is to journal what it's telling you, because it'll be screaming in your head. If it's upset about something, you write that down, it disappears, you feel better, you get a polarity shift, you feel good, and now you're ready to be in the awareness of the presence of God. So the next thing that it says is meditate, meditate, meditate. Because meditation will take you where you want to go, will take you back to heaven, because the doors to heaven are never closed. When you go out of heaven, you threw yourself out of heaven because you believed in something negative that came into your mind because you were in the fight or flight response. So then the last line there, it says, see only the good. Well, that's what we teach here in Science of Mind. What we're here to do is to see only the good. When you see only the good, guess what the universe gives you more of? Yeah. Now, 2 other ways to think of journaling or getting rid of the negativity, just so that you know it's okay. It's also called cleansing, and it's also just called forgiveness. Because any way you can convince yourself to let go of the negative so you don't have to think it anymore, immediately your body starts to heal. And, quantum mechanics tells us that we remake our world every second of our life. This physical body doesn't exist as an entity. This room doesn't exist as an entity. There's nothing here but energy. And that energy renews itself every second. The only reason it hangs out is because we're all looking at it and we're all agreeing on what it looks like. So it continues to look that way. But it's only because we're in agreement. So there's nothing going on in life but energy. And so when you learn to get in touch with that energy, you can see what it's truly about. And so what I want to do now is a few minutes of meditation, and I want to do one of my favorite meditations. And it's called Slowing to the Speed of Life. And before I do that, I want to mention two things about the handout. There's a digit wrong in my phone number. If you ever wanted to call me, it's 781, not 782. The other thing is my email is there, and we have a brand new way of doing mindful journaling, which is really nice. I really like it a lot, and we'll be glad to send you a free copy of it, recorded and also on paper if you write to that email and ask for it. So go ahead and prepare for meditation. And now as you allow yourself to begin to come to a stop, I want you to become aware of the fact that life has a speed, a natural speed. And when you get in touch with that natural speed, you become that child who is playing with its toes, and it knows what life is all about as it laughs hysterically. When you slow down to the speed of life, you become those squirrels playing on the tree. And they know what life is all about. It's all about being in the present moment. Life is your dog. The speed of life is your dog. When it comes up to you and likes you anyway, even if you're in a lousy mood, it knows what life is all about. And so just letting yourself slow down to the speed of life, that's why it's so good to go to nature and meditate. Just let yourself come to a stop and slow down. And as you slow down, you're going to go through a profound change. All of your vital signs will change and become more peaceful. All of your joy will begin to increase. And you'll begin to move down to what we call the 0 point. The 0 point is where you go when all your negative emotion just completely disappears. It goes to zero. And what's interesting is at the 0 point, the negative energy is gone, and you realize that it was never true. It was just dust in the wind. It was just waves on the surface of the sea. And when you move down into that perfect energy, you realize that this universe loved you all the time you were suffering. The universe was giving you perfect health all the time you were pinching it off and believing that you were sick. The universe was bringing you joy all the time that you thought you needed to have a disagreement with your significant other. For the universe never stops giving, and the giving is perfect. And that's why we say, there is one life. That life is God. That life is perfect. And that life is my life now. And one more thing to add to that, and there is no other life. And that means that all those things that pretend to be life, the pain, the suffering, the fear, the rejection, the sadness, the loneliness, it's not true. It's not real. It has no power. Not in your life, not in anyone's life. Sickness has no power except the power that we give it. Fear has no power except the power that we give it. So right now, just allow yourself to synchronize with your breath. Just notice that you're breathing. In fact, you could go to the next level and notice that the universe is breathing you, because you were doing it anyway. But the universe was doing it. Let the universe breathe you for the next minute. And as you do, just let yourself sink into that wonderful feeling of being one with life. That's right. Just going down into that peaceful place. And as you go down into the peaceful place, you're coming down in speed, you're slowing to the speed of life. If we had you hooked up in the doctor's office, we'd see that your vital signs were coming into homeostasis. We're seeing that everything was good. And somehow that big cloud that had been sitting on your mind all day, somehow that cloud is gone. As you realize there's nothing here but love. Love is a vibration. Love is peace flowing like a river. Love is feeling like you being visited by the Holy Spirit. Love is feeling a sense of uplift as life flows freely through, in, and as you. And when you hit the speed of life, there's like a little click. Sometimes practitioners talk about there's a click, and when the click happens, the person is healed because they come into complete synchronicity with the Spirit of God. And so just imagine coming to a stop. You've hit the 0 point, the negative thoughts are gone. Spirit is moving through you freely. It is lifting you up. It is helping you feel the quickening of spirit within you. And as you feel the quickening of spirit within you, any symptom which you were experiencing can begin to disappear. Because how can a symptom stay alive when there's nothing but pure spirit? And pure spirit is literally all that is. And so, while this service will come to an end, you can take this practice with you, and you can learn to teach yourself how to slow to the speed of life. And when you do, you find that God is all there is, and so it is.
And so it is. And so it is.